uniting communities throughout the six. This is Urban Definition with your hosts Sassan, Kareem, and Zayn on CHHA 1610.
It is so good to get back to the regular routine. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017, and you're tuned into a new episode of Urban Definition. As per usual, and I do say usual, I am joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Zayn Jinnah.
Hey, everyone.
And Mr. Sassan Mirzai.
Hey, guys.
Hey, he's not a female this week. Ain't that great?
Yeah, that's actually fantastic. Sassan's here today.
What did I miss?
Oh,
all right, so back to Sassan's, back to the socially awkward conventions of our show. Now, Zayn, before we do start the show, and I do tell Sassan what he missed last week, please tell our listeners, how do you engage, interact, and get to us, por favor?
most definitely. If you want to interact with us and be part of the show, go to our website, urbandefinition.ca, click on the Facebook and Twitter tabs, write on our wall, send us a message, or tweet at us, and be part of the conversations that we have today, and so forthcoming.
I do like that. I like the way that you put that. Now, Sassan, what you did miss last week is that we had a guest host. Her name was Amanda Lawrence, and we did love having her on. It was absolutely fabulous.
She was great, and in all honesty, I think you, if you ever have a chance to meet her or be on air with her, you should definitely look forward to that.
Cool. But I was just confused about why I was female.
Now do you understand?
I guess.
Did you listen to any part of the show last week?
No, I was in Niagara.
All right, so then when you listen to the show, then you'll understand why we said that.
Okay.
As I said, back to the regular old socially awkward conventions. Zayn, what's going on in the world right now?
Racial profiling is still occurring in public spaces across Ontario. According to a new survey by Ontario's Human Rights Commission, racial profiling is alive and well. More than 1,500 people in Ontario reported experiences of being racially profiled, not just by the police, but at work, school, hospitals, and shopping malls. The report also includes public transportation, airports, and border crossings. The report in question wasn't a random sample of people. Rather, it specifically targeted members of Indigenous, racialized, and Muslim communities, as well as experts in human rights law. The most common place for women to be racially profiled was at shopping stores, and for men it was during a police encounter. Those who were Muslim, South Asian, Arab, or West Asian were more likely to report racial profiling at airports, in employment contexts, and on public transport. The report gives us more detail, but the conclusion is very simple. Racial profiling is a large issue that requires more effort and attention from all of us.
A 2017 national census released on age shows there's more seniors than children for the first time in Canada. In BC, the two groups are concentrated in different areas of the province, with youth in the north and seniors on Vancouver Island.
On Monday night, Jimmy Kimmel used his monologue as a platform to tell the story of his newborn son's open heart surgery and to plea that all American families get the life-saving medical care that they need. He said, and I quote, "It was a scary story, and before I get into it, I want you to know it has a happy ending," assuring his audience as he detailed how his son's routine birth suddenly turned frightening. Here's a very quick recount. Several hours after his wife, Molly, gave birth to their newborn son, William John, a very attentive nurse at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center alerted the couple and the doctors to the baby's purplish color and an apparent heart murmur. The problem was that his son was receiving a lack of oxygen due to a birth defect called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia, a hole in the wall separating the right and left sides of his heart and blocked a pulmonary valve. This causes blood coming in from the different veins to mix and go to the wrong places. After his story, Kimmel followed up by criticizing the government, the American government, on their proposed cuts to national health care, and said, if your baby is going to die and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else. We all agree with that, right? All of us at Urban Definition wish Jimmy and his family well and are happy that his son is going to be just fine.
The LCBO, or as I like to call it, the LICBO, recalls Bombay Sapphire Gin for incorrect alcohol content on the label. The Liquor Control Board of Ontario is issuing a recall of the 1.14-liter bottles of Bombay Sapphire London Dry Gin because the incorrect alcohol content is shown on the label.
The Ontario government is cutting a $700,000 annual grant to the Toronto Public Library. The cut seems to relate to a recent provincial announcement of $1 million in rural, remote, and indigenous libraries. A librarian named Vicky Balls said that while the investment is applauded, the TPL can't absorb this impact and would really affect services. Cultural Minister Eleanor McMahon said that the TPL's base funding is not being touched whatsoever. It's the funding for the virtual reference library that is being cut. McMahon also said that this program has seen fewer and fewer users, and so we've decided to make those investments in a different way.
King Street reopens in the financial district after Hydrovault fire. A key route through Toronto's financial district reopened to traffic late last night, about 18 hours after it was closed to traffic because of a Hydrovault fire on Monday afternoon.
The Toronto Raptors are facing the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight for Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. It started at 7 p.m., so if you're listening to the show right now, hopefully you're listening and watching at the same time. Go Raptors, go. Come on, let's try to beat King James and bring back a win to get home on Game 3.
You're so lame.
I'm trying, man.
You are so lame. I think with that, let's skip over to the Met Gala.
Well, I'm done with my news now.
Way to read the script, Zane. Way to read the script. Want to have a look there really quick?
Sure. From sheer sheets to gender-bending tuxedos, this year's Met Gala didn't disappoint. Dubbed the Oscars of the East Coast and deemed more significant than the movie awards, Monday night's Met Gala took red carpet dressing to a new level.
All right, with that, we're going to go into the top 3, top, bottom, and a few honorable mentions. Number 1 on my top 3, Jaden Smith. While males are uncommonly pointed out for their fashion choices at events like this, I deemed it necessary to give credit where credit was due. Over the past year, Jaden and Willow have caught shade for their unique fashion-forward choices and ridiculous attires. It was nice to see Jaden keep it moderately simple and not draw attention to himself. He should have worn this outfit for prom, that's what I personally think, instead of wearing the skirt dress that he actually did. Lala Anthony, who is Carmelo Anthony's ex-wife, rocking the semi-see-through black dress and showing the world her newly single frame. Because if y'all don't know, she's divorcing Melo. Because what happened, Zane?
I actually don't know why they're divorcing.
He knocked up his side piece.
No way.
Yeah. Priyanka Chopra makes my top 3, proving that showing off cleavage is not the only thing needed to achieve maximum sexiness in a stunning trench coat turned dress. Now for my bottom 3. Number 1 on that list, Rihanna. She just took it too far with what appeared to be an art explosion melted onto her body. Words truly can't describe this disaster of a dress, and if y'all need, I can post that on Facebook for y'all. Katy Perry is number 2. I was severely disappointed because Katy Perry has forever been on my list since I found out she kissed a girl and liked it in 2008. Unfortunately, this year she traded in her hot and sexy appeal for what seems to be a horror movie-inspired red dress thing. She looked like a demonic spirit walking the red carpet in search of Orlando Bloom's soul, because if y'all didn't know, her and Orlando Bloom recently split. The last one, and I'm sorry because I know I'm going to totally butcher her name, Helen Lashakach, I don't even know how to say her last name, otherwise known as Pharrell's wifey. No, but they're actually married, I swear. She crashed the red carpet in what looks like a red velvet puff pastry. There was nothing appealing about this dress, and whoever told her it was a good idea to wear that junk on the gala deserves to be fired. A few of my honorable mentions, both good and bad. Nicki Minaj, good, brought some cultural flavor to the red carpet in what appeared to be a Latin-inspired black dress. Kendall Jenner, I give her good. Given all the controversy the young lady has faced in the past few weeks due to Pepsi, it was nice to see her keeping it simple-ish. In a semi-see-through black dress. That made sense. But at least she's legal now. I got 2 more here. Solange Knowles on the bad side proves that I will never understand the celebrity mind as she rocked a bubble jacket turned dress.
What is that?
A bubble jacket? But
yeah.
Imagine like a, like, you know, I don't know what you call those things, but like a trail. You know those dresses that have like the long trails at the bottom?
Yeah.
Imagine that, except it's a bubble jacket.
That's so weird.
Yeah. And lastly, and this was my good one, Emma Roberts shows us elegance can still be achieved with simplicity in her red velvet dress.
Very nice.
Now, Zane, as we do have a couple minutes before we go out into the commercial break, you were giving me a hard time because you were like, I don't understand the importance of the Met Gala. Why we gotta cover that?
To me, I'll be honest, I had no idea it was, I knew it was a huge thing. I just didn't know what it stood for. As far as I was concerned, it's a ball for a bunch of celebrities and rich people. I'm probably never going to go in the next couple of years. Hopefully I get to one day because it looks fun. And it's all about what people are wearing, which now after talking to you today, I realize is an art show or at least a bit of a fashion show for the red carpet. And this is one of those high events. As you've mentioned and, made me aware of the Oscars of the East Coast.
Yeah, that's what I call it, the Oscars of the East Coast.
But it's if it's bigger than that.
Well, the Met Gala, okay, so the Met Gala is essentially the mecca of fashion when it comes to fashion. I mean, the Oscars, they pay a lot of attention, like, what are you wearing, who are you wearing on the red carpet? But the Met Gala is where madness truly comes out to shine.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, I got one last thing, and it may not be your typical news, but Dear White People dropped on Netflix this weekend, and it may not have been asked for, but here's my review. The concept of Dear White People as a Netflix series faced insane resistance and attracted racial criticism from the non-colored communities. Yeah, I'm talking about you white people. With some of you going as far as canceling your Netflix subscriptions. Well, it was definitely not needed. As an article written by Hannah G. at The Ringer, she states, pouring more energy into depicting the racism its characters face than writing the characters themselves makes rooting for Dear White People, the show, difficult, and I could not agree with that more. Since the film was released in 2014, the project has done little to update itself beyond paying lip service to the technology and social media. The film already felt dated, yet 3 years later, the chasm has widened dramatically. As a series that makes itself partly based on qualities of the Black Lives Matter movement, the show does a poor job of depicting black characters who feel like they exist outside of that realm. Drake references may be forever, but culture evolves. Yet Dear White People has not leveled up, and I was really disappointed in that.
Dear Black People.
I know, right?
Now that is a series I think would be interesting. I haven't actually watched this or read the book or the original movie, so I'm kind of interested to see why you said what you did.
Here's my thing, though. The show does a great job at continuing from the movie, rather than being a regurgitation of the original film and book. But let's be honest, the book is a little bit different in and of itself because it covers on the topics. The movie had an actual plot, and now the show has an actual plot. And I do like that they continued on from the movie instead of retelling the movie.
But would you want them to develop characters more? Because
which is what the series attempted to do. I mean, you have a lot of characters in the actual TV show itself now are attempting to cover black people in the real world. When I say that, I'm talking about, your black jock who is essentially a coconut, brown on the outside, white on the inside. We got that covered. We've got our black radicalist, fight the power, fight the freedom, kind of, male after the father. So, a son of a Black Panther party member. You got that character in there. You've got a gay black male, a young gay black male who is looking to find himself. I mean, you've got the black girl who, wants to date white because she sees that as her only escape into power. And you've got your you've got your black Dear White People radio host who is in an interracial relationship. I like the way that they attempted it. I like the way they went with it. But in the end, I don't think they got what they were supposed to get out of it. It didn't project the message that I was hoping for. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way, that it's really hard to watch it and see the relatability of it.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to give it a watch, hopefully this weekend, otherwise in the next few weeks, and then we'll have our own conversation about it really at that point. For
sure. We'll talk about it next week. Hopefully we'll touch on it. Try not to drive too much in it like we did with Pokemon Go. But we'll be back. We got to take a commercial break. Stay tuned.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back to Urban Definition, and oh my god, I didn't even get to say a word the last segment. What happened there?
Not quite sure, but I would like to mention that during the commercial break, if you listen live to our program, there's a lot of opportunities to, better yourself through education.
There really is.
I mean, you got Summer Company. I think that was the first one, which is a grant that's being put together by Ryerson University. Huge opportunities. Big shout-outs to Jaleesa on that one. She's the one who brought that to my attention. We got that on the air. That was great. And then the other one was Algonquin Careers Academy, which is another fine institute where, you know what, at the end of the day, we are all students of life. And with life, you always want to consistently be educating yourself. So, great. For our live listeners, y'all got some great opportunities at your fingertips.
Which is fantastic, so take advantage of that stuff.
Way to go, Zane. Zane's looking at me like, hey, man, how am I supposed to follow that up?
I actually don't know how.
So for those of you tuning in for the first time, now is part of the part of the show that we like to call Real Talk. And with that, tonight's topic is racism round the horn. In the last week, we've seen and heard of some nastiness going on in both the NHL and the MLB. Now, let me get into both of them, okay? So, right now, the NHL playoffs are going on. The St. Louis Blues are taking on the Nashville Predators. Now, in Game 1, PK Subban obviously had scored a goal. St. Louis Blues were doing live updates on their Twitter feeds. Basically had written, PK Subban scores 2-0 Nashville with 5 minutes to go. And one of their, St. Louis fans commented and said, the effing black guy. Ugh. To which St. Louis did respond, we don't tolerate racism or discrimination. Hockey is for everyone, and we expect our fans to treat everyone, including opponents, with respect. The fan followed up the Blues' response by saying he was joking, and the Blues answered, again, telling him that it was never acceptable to begin with. Since the post, the fan has gone and deleted his account. The second incident that we're talking about is in the MLB, which for those of you who don't know means Major League Baseball. The Orioles' Adam Jones, who is easily the greatest player on the Orioles team, the Baltimore Orioles team, was betrayed by racist taunts at Fenway Park in Boston. Now, a lot of people say that Boston is probably the most racist place to play in general. Now, with that being said, the center infield was basically... How can I explain this? A bag of peanuts was thrown at him during the game by the fans, and then in follow-up to that, fans started chanting the N-bomb to him. He said,
wow.
He said it was the most disgusting experience he'd ever faced in his career, and he was just completely demoralized. Now, the question is, like the St. Louis Blues, how did Boston reply? From what I understand, they kicked the fans who were making the racist taunts out of the game. But from what I understand, there was never really a formal apology or statement ever released. Which gets me into my first question. Do we have a problem here?
You want my short answer or a long answer?
Whichever one you feel is necessary.
Just so Sassan has something to say as well. Short answer, 100% something is wrong here.
I'm just wondering, how are these fans doing it? Is it when they're like playing the game, people are actually shouting racist taunts?
Well, during the Baltimore game, they threw peanuts at him.
Okay.
Because feeding the monkeys.
Okay.
And then they started chanting the N-bomb to him while he was out in field playing defense.
And they can hear that?
Of course.
Uh-huh.
Have you never been to a baseball game?
No, I thought it was just like screaming all around.
Dude, you sit like maybe 5 feet away from some of these players.
Oh, okay.
In some cases...
I just thought it was like too loud to hear.
No,
I wasn't expecting it to be like a golf game where everyone's like, everyone quiet, he's about to make the putt.
Not at all.
Okay.
You've never been to a Jays game?
No.
Hey, can we not go off on that tangent
we
right
won't,
now?
But just so he understands for future context, like, we have to send him to a game. Anyways, but yeah, that's how it works. Like, the field is open, you can hear everyone,
Okay.
and the players definitely hear what you're saying.
All right, so I see what's happening. Okay.
We're still waiting on an answer.
Oh, yeah, then it was terrible, of course.
I said, do we have a problem
Yes,
here?
we have a problem.
Okay, why?
Because you can't just, like, go to a game to watch someone's face. It's basically watching this guy's performance and then just, like, shutting him down, not because of his performance, but because of his race.
Okay.
He hit the nail on the head there.
I think he hit like half the nail on the head with that statement. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not discrediting him. It's a good statement. You're not wrong in what you're saying, but I think you're touching on just a portion of what the issue at hand here is. So, which brings me to my next question. Given that we're speaking about American sports, can it be argued that this is the result of a Trump America?
100% we can do that. And the reason is because, again, if you go back to the election, you will see that a bunch of small a bunch of small groups with this kind of mentality found a voice to then express these opinions, which are not just politically incorrect, but downright rude and disrespectful. And so what they've done now is they found a power in this, and they're translating into all areas of life. And I know we talked about Colin Kaepernick last year taking the knee. What's been happening in that country is beyond politics. It's spread to sports, it's spread to lifestyle, it's spread to other areas, and it's being seen worldwide. So I would definitely relate it back to Trump America.
Sans, you got a response to that?
I wouldn't say it's completely Trump, but I feel like Trump is making people like come out of their shells. Like people who are racist are like, oh, I guess it's not that bad to be racist. I'm going to bring it out full out, but it's not completely Trump.
All right, now I disagree with you, Zayn. I sort of see where Sassan's going from, and Sassan, it's good that he kind of spoke in between us because I'm on the other side of the spectrum with you. I don't think that this has anything to do with Trump to begin with. I think because if you look at 2016, for example, Trump only took presidency. He's only been in presidency for 100 days now.
Yeah. 2016
was basically the year of the racists throughout North America. You look at Trayvon Martin. You look at, in all honesty, I don't even want to go through the list right now. But if you look at all of those instances, this is an issue that has been coming up for years upon years upon years upon years, and I can keep going on about it. You look at the ESPYs from last year. Well, that's like beginning of the year, almost June, July.
But those were about these social issues, not about issues in American sports. This is what we're talking about in just sports,
sure.
Right?
Then let's talk about the NFL then. Right? Colin Kaepernick was not just kneeling because of, gun violence. He was kneeling because of injustice towards black people.
Fair.
So you're arguing that, I think this is something that has been going on. It's just been very underlying. And now that we live in such a social setting where you have, organizations such as Black Lives Matter, this is the time that now it's like, okay, it's not everybody willing to start being racist. I think it's everybody willing to start talking about it.
Okay, I see what you're saying there. So then if I'm going to change my answer, then I would say Donald Trump is a catalyst, a huge catalyst, because like Sassan said, he encourages people to come out of their shell. Whether or not it was already existing or it happened a lot more, you see it as more apparent now.
It's funny because in the Caribbean they have a really funny saying. What you just said there, you can call Donald Trump a vessel, right? A vessel for racism. And in the Caribbean, they say empty vessels make the most noise. And that is so true about Donald Trump.
That actually is the perfect analogy. I don't know if my English is correct there, but that is the perfect way to describe this.
Now, I've got 2 more questions regarding this. We've got a minute before we go to commercial. I'll ask the question. You can answer it a little bit, but I feel like this conversation really does need to continue into the next little block there. But I will pose the question right now, and that is this. What is the role of sport franchises to deal with these issues and eliminate them from sports?
This is definitely going to be a longer answer than a minute.
Exactly. So, because I know that you will have an absolutely long-winded answer, I'm going to give it to Sassan. Sassan, you've got a minute to answer this question. Obviously, we're going to go to commercial and we'll come back afterwards. But what would be your answer to what I just asked?
Wait, what? Which question?
The question
right
is, what is the role of sport franchises to deal with these issues and eliminate them from sports?
Just kick them out. That's it.
But that's not actually defeating it. All you're doing is essentially trying to throw a blanket over a fire in hopes that it extinguishes it.
But that's not that many people. You said it was a small group of people, so...
But we're talking about cross sports right now, right? I mean, we're talking about the 4 major sports in North America are basketball, football, hockey, and baseball. In the last week, 2 of those major sports had racial issues. Like I said, this is going off into the next chunk. We'll be back. We got to take a break. When we come back, Sassan will give us his answer. Right?
Yeah.
Good.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, y'all. So for those of you guys who kind of got lost during the commercial break and kind of didn't really understand or interjected into the middle of our last chunk, we're talking about racism around the horn, racism in sports. Before we went out to the commercial break, I had posed the question to Sassan, what is the role of a sports franchise to deal with these issues and eliminate them from sports?
Just before Sassan answers that, for all the listeners at home right now who are listening to this, if you want to be part of the conversation, again, go to Urban Definition and click on our Twitter and Facebook tabs and be part of it, because this is actually something that we all can discuss and have an opinion on.
Couldn't agree with that more.
Okay, so rename the sports categories, NHL.
So the four major sports in North America are the NFL, National Football League, MLB, Major League Baseball, NBA, National Basketball Association, and the NHL, National Hockey League.
And here's the problem with all those sports. They don't really have a worldwide tournament other than the Olympics. So then...
What are you talking about? Of course they do.
Actually?
You have the World Juniors, you've got the BioSteel Classic.
And, like, people from Europe actually come in and actually, like...
You got the FIBA championships for basketball, I know.
How come I've never heard of this? I only hear about, like, NHL and stuff going worldwide during the Olympics. That's so weird.
But please, explain what your rhetoric behind
I was going to
that
say...
was.
Since all of these sports, like, only happen, majority, in my perspective, they only happen in North America, people are thinking, hey, racism's going to happen because of this.
But do you realize that, like, the players who make up 90% of, like, all of those four sports are international players?
I know, but some people still don't understand that, like, the Americas are a multicultural...
But you're
like,
also
country.
still not answering the question.
What do you mean? The question was... What would the franchise, like, do to stop this from happening, right?
Well, yeah, what is the role of a franchise? So do you understand what I mean by franchise?
Yeah, the different sports, like the NHL and...
The
No.
different teams.
Individual teams. So every individual team is considered a franchise. The Toronto Raptors are a franchise. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a separate franchise. Toronto Rock, which is lacrosse, which is not what we're talking about, but still that's a separate franchise, and so forward. So even within each four leagues, every team is considered a franchise. So each of those teams, what is their role, or what role do you think that they need to play to be able to eliminate racial issues in sports?
I guess the only thing I would do in that situation, if I was, like, in charge of it, is promote the ethnic players more, like, make them more heroes or something.
But based on what I just told you, if they do that, you're opening the door to having people like Mr. Rex from the St. Louis Blues fans, from the fanship, turning around and saying, ugh, another black player. Ugh. But I get what you're saying. I sort of get it. Zayn, go ahead on your rant.
I actually am going to agree with Sass on that last point, actually, and say that the role of the franchise, one, is to make sure that that's eliminated, and that, as you said before, as the St. Louis Blues said before, you know, we have to respect the culture of the sport and everyone, all our players. Mm-hmm. I see this in basketball more than I do any other sport because that's the one I watch the most, where you have the NBA taking initiatives with Giants of Africa, where they open, they're now looking internationally to draft players. So it's no longer
It's not like they
just
haven't been looking. I mean,
they haven't, but it's been expanding more so than ever before, right? And it's going to continue to grow. Now it's becoming more competitive as basketball becomes more global. So you have a lot of European players who are interesting. You have a lot of South American players who are very good. Like Bruno Caboclo, for example, came from Brazil,
Bruno Caboclo,
right?
Yeah.
And a number of other players. So the role of the franchise to deal with this, and as Sassan mentioned, is make those players relevant. Have those Latin nights or African nights or tribute to different various cultures. And I know that won't solve the problem overnight, and you'll still have fans tweeting and saying these kinds of things. But the more community engagement you have between the players who make up the franchise and the fans who support it, the more you're promoting and understanding a commonality, because at the end of the day, it's about the sport, and it's about cheering on your home team to win every game. So the more you promote a commonality between them, the less likely you are to have a different or a distance in connection. So you won't have players then saying that kind of thing. You'll have that guy would have been like, "Oh man, PK Subban, why would he do that?" Or he's just cold-blooded. It would have been a very different tweet and a very sportsmanlike tweet as opposed to just being racist.
So let me try to condense that down. So your spark notes are basically that, what you're doing is you're creating smaller things that expose people to higher levels of education, which basically in turn will make people more accepting of, in your case, international beliefs, more racial equality, stuff like that.
Exactly, because the franchise already sees that, right? They understand it's beyond race and religion and ethnicity.
Not if you're Donald Sterling.
But
now,
and what happened to him?
He got fired, and
he
got a lifetime ban and got fined $1 billion.
And he was forced to sell the team, and that is the kind of drastic action. And I applaud Adam Silver so much for that, for when it happened a few years ago.
Which is good, because now you're bringing me to my point, which is I understand what your argument. I understand your points. I cannot entirely dispute them because, let's be honest, that is a great way to make minimal progress. But for me, I think what it comes down to is each franchise needs to commit on making sure that it be known that each franchise is intolerable to these types of issues. What I want every sports franchise out of the 4 major sports to basically put out a statement that says, we don't tolerate racism or discrimination. Insert sport is for everyone, and we expect our fans to treat everyone, including opponents, with respect. That's the kind of onus that I put on each of these franchises.
And that's what the whole NBA as a league did a few years ago with homophobia. They said the whole campaign, if you remember, if you can play, you can play. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but if you based on that statement, but hold on. The issue with that is that, sure, they're saying it, but in the end, it doesn't actually correspond to the way that their actions.
Well, like I said, it's not going to happen overnight,
because
right?
You look at Jason Collins, for example. Jason Collins came out of the closet. No team wanted him anymore. He got picked up by the Boston Celtics and then basically kind of got tossed off to the side. Thankfully, he's now an assistant coach. But then, okay, look at, what's his name? Sam Smith or whatever, who came out into the NFL draft. He got drafted by the St. Louis Rams, now known as the Los Angeles Rams. Didn't even make it through the offseason for training camp. They cut him long before that. No team wanted him. Montreal Alouettes tried him for a little while, dropped him too.
Progress is a slow process.
It's true, but for me, I don't disagree with what you're saying about, small steps, baby steps, let's expose everybody to a higher level of education. But my thing is I want to see a bigger onus from our franchise, whether it be your GMs, not just, your commissioners. I want each of these franchises to put out a statement like that. Because I'm not holding, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, and Carmelo Anthony accountable to be at the ESPYs telling everybody that, we need to be working on this. Sure, that's a great movement. It kind of pushes your rhetoric, but I think that the leaders, because let's be honest, the back office are bigger leaders than the front office.
They really are.
Because if what I was saying was not true, somebody would have signed Colin Kaepernick by now.
And I agree with you completely.
Final question of the night, because we do have to wrap up this topic. Given that we live in a Trump America, how do North Americans, both north and south of the border, combat/deal with these issues?
I think my answer goes back to education, man, and again, promoting the understanding and learning of different cultures. And
your thing is the long game?
It is the long game. It always has to be the long game. Because in the short term, you can do as much as you want, but it will never reach everybody. To kill the whole problem, you have to start with the ideology of it, and that is through education. And once education passes through, slowly the idea dies and is left with older generations. That's why people like Donald Sterling you don't see as much these days.
Well, Donald Sterling's out of the picture. He's gone, man.
He's out of the picture physically, but his mentality isn't, right? And until he, no offense, but he dies and people of like-mindedness die, you won't have change. But the future generations, they can make that change.
And that is an amazing way to end Real Talk tonight. Nothing else to be said, ladies and gentlemen. On to the next one.
Tech Talk.
I haven't heard that song in so long. I'm actually really excited to hear it. And since I'm excited, we have to talk about my favorite company, and that's Nintendo. Nintendo actually announced a new console last week. It's the new Nintendo 2DS XL. And it's basically the new Nintendo 3DS XL, but 2D, but with a whole new design overhaul. So the top screen actually looks like one of those old iPhones, so it's all nice and smooth. And my issue with it is that they move the speakers from where it should be, like on the top screen, where you can actually hear it perfectly, to on the side where it just sends audio to your stomach. So I don't know how that's going to play out, and it's coming out in July, so no reviews yet. We won't know anything about it. But it's going to be cheap. It's going to be $150 USD, so that's around 200 Canadian. So that's $40 cheaper than the 3D version, and it looks a lot nicer. It's nice and blue. So that's it for Nintendo. Other than that, oh my god, this actually made me really happy. Nokia is releasing new phones, and it's actually going by the standard that I wanted every other phone company to take. Basically, they're going Android because they love Android, and they're keeping it stock Android. So they're not pulling a Samsung or an LG where they put their own thing on top just to slow it down. No, Nokia is actually going to take Android parts, and they're going to take stuff from all the phones you love. So how LG and iPhone both have the two cameras with different lenses, Nokia is doing that as well. Nokia is also taking the best processor, and it's also just, it's Nokia. Like, Nokia's always been the phone growing up that I just loved, because there was the first one, I forgot what it was called, the little brick one that never died. You can drop it a million times and the battery lasted like a week. That was great. And then ever since then, they just kept upgrading and upgrading. They eventually got to a cell phone that looked like a camcorder. Like, you can actually pull out the screen and like twist it. And it had a really big camera on the side. And I just wish phone companies would continue this kind of stuff. But the thing Nokia is doing right now is actually perfect. It's a good rival towards the other competitors. Speaking of rivalry against like Android processors, Microsoft is actually releasing a new operating system called Windows 10S, and it's taking the form of, I'm going to say like an Apple computer or like an iOS or Android computer, where basically when you turn on your computer, instead of everything running off of like Windows itself, because that's what Windows is. Windows means like you open separate windows for every app. It's doing it in a completely different way, whereas it's like apps. So if you open Chrome, Chrome opens in its own little container. Or if you open Word, Word opens in its own container. So it's basically good against viruses and whatnot, because it's not actually affecting the computer. Each program is opening its own little software, and it might be good, but the only problem with this is if you get something like this, you can't customize it too much, because all your apps have to be downloaded off an app store, and it's basically like having an Android phone or an iPad or whatever as your main computer. But the benefit of this is it's going to be cheaper. It's supposed to be targeted towards students, because students don't really need customization. They mostly need Word and like anything really to write an essay, like Chrome. So it's a good update, but I don't know. It's not for me, but I can see a market for it. But moving on to credit cards. So I know everyone knows about cell phones and iPads and all those other gizmos, laptops, having fingerprint readers. MasterCard is actually introducing a fingerprint reader on your credit card. So now when you put the chip into the card reader, you actually have to put your finger on instead of typing a PIN. And that's actually like a really cool method of paying for stuff, because you no longer have to type in a PIN. You no longer have to wait for it to go to the PIN screen. But the only issue I see with it is that people can't do the thing like what most people do is like, hey, can you go to the store and get me this? Here's my credit card. You can't do that anymore. You actually need to go with your fingerprint. So
I like that. But yeah, the whole part of, I can't have anyone buy me something on my own card. That's going to be annoying.
Yeah.
But that's a good security measure. I like that.
I really like it too. It's going to make everything faster, but criminal-wise, it's the scary part, because what if someone like cuts off your finger just to use your card? I don't think it'll get that far, though.
I can see people wanting to copy fingerprints, but that's another thing.
And the last thing I want to talk about is actually a really big one for cord cutters out there, which is like people like me who no longer have cable or satellite services. And it's basically Twitter is now partnering up with Bloomberg to make a 24-hour news live stream on their website. So basically, anyone who doesn't have television at home and who wants to watch the news, Bloomberg is going to allow you to watch it straight off of Twitter.
Is that? I guess it's a good thing. Because what kind of news service are they going to go with? I mean, Bloomberg News, but
like top stories. So everything you need to know about the news, but just online and available to everyone.
That's actually not a bad. I was thinking about was why don't they just start broadcasting on Facebook Live and things like that?
They could do that, but I guess they wanted Twitter wanted a partnership, so that's probably why they did it. But it's also cool because Bloomberg is getting paid through ads that they're going to put on Twitter. So it's a win-win situation for every company right now. And for people who don't have cable, that's what you can do.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy about that. But yeah, that wraps up Tech Talk, and we went through a lot today.
I think that last piece just shows you how far technology is really coming into our lives, eh? Like, it's crazy.
We're cutting off TV and radio and going straight to internet. It's great.
I know this is the changes that they talked about when we were in school. I just didn't expect it to happen that fast.
Right? It's only been like 7 years.
It's exciting, though. Anyways, guys, stick around. We'll have more Urban Definition when we get back after the break.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back to Urban Definition. If you're just tuning in, make sure to join the conversation at urbandefinition.ca and click on our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter. And Zayn, I'm going to bring you to the segment that's called This Weekend in Toronto.
Not quite yet. Not quite
Not
yet.
yet?
I think what we're going to do is let's go through some... Zayn, was there some news that we might have missed?
Actually, I do have an update. There is some news, but I have an update for you guys on the Raptors game. So far, right now, from what I'm looking at on NBA.com, the Raptors are down against Cleveland, 83-65.
Holy mashup!
Yeah, so it looks like, I mean, I don't want to jinx it. It's the third quarter. You got 5 minutes left. But in all honesty, we all know where this goes, guys.
Your Raps not playing to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers.
We're going to probably lose this. Cleveland's going to get a 2-0 advantage. But the same thing happened last year. Don't count us out.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Don't count us out.
That's true.
However, I still don't have that much faith.
Well, Cleveland has a completely different structure this year, and did you watch the game one?
Yeah, I did.
Yo,
it was disgusting.
They mush up on the trees.
It was disgusting.
Out of mercy. But yeah, oh man.
And for anyone wondering about the Jays tonight, actually as well, the Jays are playing. We're winning 6-5 against the Yankees.
Well, there's the silver lining.
It's only 4 innings in.
They're only I think 9-18 right now.
It's only 4 innings in. Let's not again.
No, I mean their record. I'm talking about their record for the season so far.
Oh,
is 9 wins, 18 losses.
That's really bad. No
Something
wonder
like that.
ticket prices are going down so much.
Yeah.
I went to a game last Friday for $20. Like pretty good seats too.
Where are we talking? 300s?
200s.
That's pretty good. That's not bad at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. I'll give you that.
It was like 3 rows from the edge. Also,
sure.
TFC's playing tonight. We're winning 2-1, and it's 52 minutes in. So
now that's a team that I can get behind. No, the TFC's doing really well. Even last season. It's that what's his name? Giovanni Govavinko.
No.
Yo, that guy's.
I know who you're talking about.
That guy's a mudman. No, I like him. He's good. He's a good player. Good guy to get behind. So on my side, the news that I missed was I completely forgot to talk about the 2017 White House Correspondents' Dinner. So let's do that super quick. It was hosted this year by Hassan Minhaj, 9 years in a row now. Wow. Prominent Washington journalists, not very many Hollywood stars, celebrated their First Amendment during the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. An event that lacked the glitter of past years, mainly due to the absence of sitting president, Mr. Donald Agent Orange Trump. The key rhetoric of the night was roasting of the president on his outlandish remarks about the press and free world. The second thing that I forgot to talk about, well, I didn't get to talk about it, but it kind of fits into what Zayn is going to talk about in a couple seconds, but I'm kind of jumping the gun, because Sassan jumped the gun on the release of the 2D XL that's coming out in when?
July.
So let's talk July. For those of you who don't know, July is also the month of Just for Laughs Festival, which typically takes place in Montreal, as it does this year. This year, the main headliners that have been announced are Jerry Seinfeld and Kevin Hart. The festival will take place from July 14th to 30th, and the information was kind of set out today, which is why I'm touching on it today. The other juggernauts, the other comedy juggernauts that will be present are Mr. John Mulaney, who I'm a huge fan of, Ali Wong, and Trevor Noah. For those of you interested, I would highly recommend getting your tickets now because they will sell out fast, and I will be buying my tickets tonight.
For sure.
Yeah. You're holding up Sassan's phone, which means you have probably something to say, so let's hear what you got to say.
All right, well, it's going to start into here's what's happening this weekend. Starting tomorrow is May the 4th, and for anyone who's a Star Wars fan, you know exactly what that means. It's the original Star Wars Day, and it's back for celebration in 2017. May the 4th be with you. Here's the schedule tomorrow for Toronto. From 6 to 7, you have a costume meetup and photo shoot in Dundas Square. At 7, doors open upstairs at the Hard Rock Cafe, and at 8 p.m., it's showtime. Which is showtime for what, Sassan? Because I really don't know what's going on.
It's going to be basically a costume like dance party.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you going?
No, I don't watch Star Wars.
Why'd you even make me read that? I'm just kidding. I appreciate it.
You love Star Wars. You love Star Wars.
As a Star Wars fan, I appreciate it, but I won't be attending that.
Aw.
Here's what else is going down this weekend. Here's what else this is going down this weekend. My English is terrible. Friday, Cinco de Mayo at Steam Whistle. Well, Friday in general is going to be Cinco de Mayo because it is the 5th of May. They're going to be holding a celebration at Steam Whistle Brewery, which is going to be celebrating Cinco de Mayo with margaritas, Mexican eats, a DJ, photo station, and tequila. Cinco de Mayo at El Catrin, the Distillery District Cantina, is having a party starting at 7 p.m. There will be beer and tequila samplings, a photo booth, and a live mariachi band. The party is first come, first serve, so arrive early. On Friday, you also had the Toronto Raptors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. This time in Toronto, that's the first home game for this series. It's going to start at 7 p.m. FNL Splash is starting up. That's right. Friday Night Live at the ROM is back. This week, it's going to be Connor Cutts and DJ Frankie Frank that'll be spinning on the ones and twos. Starts from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m., and it's a lot of fun, taken from someone who's gone. Halal Guys is having its grand opening on Friday. The famous New York food truck is now opening its first Canadian restaurant at Yonge and Wellesley. It'll be served all day at 11 a.m., and the first 500 people have a chance to receive some swag.
They recently put a post out on Facebook. Well, I saw it on Facebook advertising, at least, that they were looking for volunteers for the food festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot to send it to you and share it on Urban Definition, but that definitely happened.
Make sure you post it on Urban Definition so everyone has a chance to check it out as well.
I'll do that tonight.
For sure. Ryerson University is having a film festival. It's called Ryerson University Film Festival 2017, a.k.a. Rough. And it's the annual student-run showcase of the final films made by the graduating class of the Ryerson School of Image Arts. 21 short films will be screened on May 5th and May 6th at the Ryerson Theater. Come and celebrate their 20th anniversary year. Doors will open at 6:30 p.m. each night, with screenings beginning at 7 p.m. Tickets are $12 for one night or $20 for both.
Isn't Rough already a thing, or am I thinking Tough? It might be Tough. Toronto Urban Film Festival.
I think you're thinking Tough, because Rough has been here for 20 years.
Rough.
I've actually never heard of it until today, so...
Oh, interesting. Very cool, though.
Shows you how much I was really involved. On Saturday, Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions is having their concert at the Sony Center for the Performing Arts. It's going to start at 7:30 p.m., and Sassan was very excited for me to tell this one because I think he is going. Are you going?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be basically all the Pokemon video games, all the music in a symphony. It's going to be great.
You know what? When you go, give us a review and make sure you take a lot of snaps and stuff. Put on Instagram and Snapchat and all that and let people know what you're doing.
I haven't bought tickets yet, so if there's tickets, I'll definitely do it.
Good gosh, Sassan.
I'm sorry. I found out about it today.
Fair enough.
Guy goes, I'm definitely going if I can find tickets.
Well, it says buy tickets. I'm pretty sure it's not sold out yet. Also, I need someone to go with.
Fair. On Saturday, you also have Jane's Walk, Toronto Reggae History. Explore the reggae history along Eglinton West from the 1960s onward. Through the walk, you will encounter some of the people and places that made the neighborhood a home for talent. There is a rich neighborhood history told through food, style, and music. The walk will start at the Maria A. Shuka Library from 2 to 4 p.m. And on Sunday, last but not least, you have the Toronto Raptors yet again facing the Cavaliers for Game 4, Game 2 at home for this series. And that's going to be at 3:30 p.m.
Wait, but you just said Game 4. What about
Game 4
3?
of the series, Game 2 of being at home. Game 3 is on Friday.
Oh, that's true. That's what I'm missing out on. My bad.
No worries. But that's what's happening this weekend, and it's going to be a fun weekend, man. May is officially here. Spring is almost coming to an end, and summer is around the corner. Although you can't tell by walking outside.
Right? We've had, crazy temperature all around.
Just fluctuating up and down, up and down. Yesterday was raining and cold. Today was sunny and a little cool. Tomorrow, who knows?
We had a tornado warning on Monday.
We did?
Yes.
We had a thunderstorm warning this past weekend. I don't know what's going on in the city anymore, man.
It's
And
terrible.
the worst of all, Drake is nowhere to be found at these Raptors games. Where is our ambassador?
I actually saw posts about that. They're always like, there's Drake's seat. I'm like, why does everyone care so much?
The man has built himself on brand identity for us. And then, like, he's not showing up when we need him?
You guys are way too much. Anyways, that wraps up tonight's episode. For the y'all planning to go out this weekend, please don't drink and drive. Don't do anything silly, because ain't nobody got time for that. Live, love, learn. We're all students of life. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610.